You're watching Let the Quran Speak, and now we answer questions from you. If you have a question, visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. Dr. Shabir, the question is it Islamically permissible for me to live in a non-Muslim country like Brazil? Here I can freely practice my faith, and my autistic son receives therapy here that he wouldn't be able to get in Muslim-majority countries. I'm troubled because scholars have said Muslims shouldn't reside permanently in non-Muslim lands without a valid Sharia reason, and I fear I may be sinful for staying.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. About 30 years ago, Safia, people were asking this question about living in Canada.
Yes.
But I think now Muslim scholarship in Canada has settled on the idea that we're here to stay. And, there's as a group, as a community on the whole, individuals will have to still weigh their own circumstances and ask themselves, do they have a better option? In terms of many different factors. People move for all kinds of reasons, right? For education, for better jobs, for economic stability, for safety from political oppressors, for a variety of reasons. So people move, they travel, and so on. In the past, Muslim scholars had thought about the world as being bifurcated between what they call Darul Islam and Darul Harb. Darul Islam is the land of Islam. Darul Harb is the land of war.
Mm-hmm.
And they understood that if you live in the Dar of Islam, in the world of Islam, then you are safe. And you are safe to practice your religion. If you go outside of that territory, then you might be attacked by non-Muslims. You may not have the freedom to practice your religion. People may desecrate the Quran. Be sure you don't let anyone get hold of the copy of the Quran because they'll tear it up, and so on. This was the thinking at the time. And of course, they're responding to the realities as they knew it.
The actual circumstances.
At the time. Yeah. So from their perspective, if you're going to go out of the Islamic territory, then it must be for what they call the valid Sharia reason, as the questioner is saying. Maybe, like in the case of the autistic child, like the treatment that you need is available outside, so you need to go and get that treatment. But that should be temporary. As soon as you are done with what the objective was, you are to come back to the Islamic land. So with that in mind, a lot of people in Canada, like 30 years ago, they were thinking, okay, but we are here only temporarily. Maybe we're here to earn some money and go back home and make a good living for ourselves, take care of our families and so on. Or we're here to get an education, we'll go back home, wherever home was. But eventually people come to realize that no, it's not so simple. Because after you have lived here for a while and you have had children and your children grow up here, to transplant them from Canada and into another part of the world that is not so developed will not be an easy adjustment for the children. And so many other connections come to be built and so on. And then eventually when you go back, what is back home, you find that the situation back home has changed. It's worse off than the way you left it initially. And you're wondering, is this what I wanted to come back to?
Yes.
And you yourself have become accustomed to life in a modern, developed country such as Canada.
And then if you're living in a place like Canada and you're thinking, oh, I'm only going to be here temporarily, it also affects the way you relate to people, you relate to the land, you relate to the society as a whole, right? You can't really make a difference in a society.
Exactly.
Because you're just thinking, I'm a stranger here, right?
Yes, that's right. You prefer to rent rather than own fixed assets such as real estate and so on. So it makes a lot of difference on the impact
but even like
that you can make.
Islam, like in a society, doesn't really flourish, right? Because it's just seen as like, oh, we're only here for a little bit, whatever rights and we get is like, okay, because we're going to go back to our homeland.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Now, the crucial thing for people to think about, Safia, is the level of Islamic practice that they are able to observe either in Canada or somewhere else, or Brazil for that matter. So we might think, okay, Canada has a lot of challenges and a lot of things that are undesirable from an Islamic point of view, but there are a lot of good things as well.
Mm-hmm.
The freedom of religion, the respect for people, among people, the way in which people greet each other with a smile and saying, sir and madam, and greeting people in a very cordial and respectful manner, and so on. People find that in some other parts of the world, even parts that are known to be Islamic regions, that we don't have that level of politeness and courtesy and freedom of action and so on. And so they miss Canada when they leave. And then if we think about some of the evils that are surrounding us in places like Canada, where, there's full freedom, one can worship God, or one can worship the devil if they want. So with this freedom, a lot of people do things which are undesirable from an Islamic point of view. And some of these things may be curtailed in an Islamic context in another country. But then there are other evils which are prevailing in those Islamic contexts. And sometimes those are disgusting evils in their own way. And people going back and witnessing these again and seeing them with fresh eyes after having lived in Canada for a while, they realize, no, wait a minute, this is not what I really bargained for. And now with satellite and so on, and so many different ways in which people access things like pornography and so on, we find that evils are widespread everywhere. Drugs are, illegal drugs are, permeating the Muslim lands and taking hold of the youth. So there's no safe space in this way. You have to make your own safe space, whether it is in Canada or in Brazil or in Saudi Arabia or wherever you happen to be. You have to carve out that safe space for yourself and your family and develop the attitude from within you and within your family members. Help them to develop that attitude, help your kids to see this, clear light of day, and so that they can navigate wherever they are, they can avoid the evils and capitalize on the opportunities to do good. So the simple answer from our friends in Brazil is that I wouldn't recommend that they move, but of course they would know their own circumstances, like what living there is doing for them or to them. If it is doing something good for them religiously and materially, great. If it's doing something bad for them, especially religiously, and they have a better alternative somewhere else, then, why not pursue that better alternative as we move for job, for education, for medical treatment? Why don't we move also for religion? But let it be a carefully thought out decision, weighing all of the factors, and capitalizing on the best available opportunities.
All right. Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.